Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Welcome to the new members, Sam Harshaw and Jesse R. Actually remembered to send the notifications tonight, so that was good. Been a very, very busy week, but everything's going really well. And welcome, Carl Robert Nordquist. There's a good Norwegian name. Although it could be Swedish, I suppose. And our sound is good. That's good. So tonight, going to begin with a little bit of talk concerning the unsealing of the Epstein records. But after that, it's going to be pretty freeform. I didn't have a lot of time didn't have any time to think about this really because we've been dealing with the legal situation, as you know. So, but it's all good. It's all going well. And so Marie Golay says that Owen eats Oreos, and I know it. Hey, there's nothing wrong with eating Oreos. You know, I like I haven't eaten one in years, but I am partial to the chocolate covered ones. Anyhow, I think that we all need to acknowledge Mike Cernovich and the role that he has played in this. I mean, yes, some people have said, oh, well, you know, this isn't just because of what Mike's doing. That doesn't matter. The point is that Cerno is doing great work. He's doing good work. He's persistent and he's getting results. He's one of the few people on the right who is actually fighting, who is actually making a difference, who is actually trying to make a difference. Sorry about that. Again, I thought I'd save you the trouble of having to listen to that in your ears. Bob the Builder says, I am his alt hero. Well, Dynamique is mine. Dynamique is probably my favorite alt hero. Yeah, I know. Mike has been a big influence on me. He really gave me some good advice about 4 years ago, and I don't think that this channel would be here. I don't think Unauthorized TV would be here if it weren't for Cerno's advice. And so I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very grateful for what he's doing. And you know, people like to criticize Mike for this or that reason. I don't pay any attention to any of it. You know, he's a good man. His wife is delightful. And I quite like them both. So, and I think it's great to see how, even though the media is really loath to so much as mention his name, and they really don't want to cover the story, but they have to. Welcome, Josie. Do you always sneeze when you start talking? I think it might have something to do with the lights, actually. You know, I turn this really bright light on next to me. That seems to trigger something. Dreadnought says, The Guardian is pushing Jordan as an answer to the problem of young men. Of course it is. Looks like you were right, Vox. His purpose for the globalists is being revealed publicly. Well, they might as well, because I spelled it out in Jordanetics. Jordan Peterson knows I'm right. His backers know I'm right. Anyone who's paid any attention to what he's doing knows I'm right. And so, you know, it's obvious what he's doing. You know, one of these days, I wish that they didn't have the entire emotional appeal of what Kane Brown is singing, the entire emotional appeal of his songs are 100% anathema to what Jordan Peterson is teaching. You know, what Jordan Peterson is teaching is terrible for young men. Absolutely dreadful. And so, anyhow, but let's talk about Epstein. So, this is just the beginning of the revelations that we're going to be hearing. It was interesting to see that Donald Trump was practically cleared of any possible wrongdoing. Um, the young woman who was being deposed had come out and said that he'd never flirted with her, he'd never hit on anybody, she'd never seen him doing anything inappropriate, and in fact, she'd never seen him at all, and that the only reason that she'd said anything about him being friends with Epstein was because Epstein said it. But of course, Epstein is obviously full of crap. His whole business was being a networker and connecting people, so he's the kind of person who's always going to claim to know people better than he did. I mean, we all know that Epstein and Trump knew each other. We've seen the video of the two of them at a nightclub, but I've been at nightclubs with hundreds of different people, and very few of them were good friends that I spent much time with. But what was more interesting were some of the names that she named. Marvin Minsky is particularly interesting because, as an economist, obviously I'm very familiar with Minsky, and he's actually, the 2008 financial crisis is considered to be the most famous Minsky moment of them all. He did some analysis connecting the debt to the real economy, which is very much outside the realm of orthodox economics. In fact, Steve Keen, probably the greatest living economist, is a pretty big fan of Minsky. Now, some people might say, "Oh, it's outrageous that this young girl named this guy, and we don't have any records of him having been in the places that she was talking about, etc., etc." But here's the thing: how would a uneducated young woman know anything about Marvin Minsky? How would she even get the name of the guy? And the guy was on the flights. Now you could say, "Oh, well, she was picking names off of the flights," but we have, as far as we know, haven't seen any evidence that this young woman, Virginia Giuffre, I think her name is, there's no evidence whatsoever that she's ever seen it. So what she is saying is corroborated by the flight logs to a certain extent. I mean, for me, part of why I find her story convincing is because she didn't name Bill Clinton. She didn't name Donald Trump, names that she could have named that would have been immediately recognizable. She has named Alan Dershowitz. She has named former New Mexico governor, what's his name, George, I want to say Mitchell, but that's not right. I think he's the Hispanic guy that was connected to the Clintons. And if you look at, let's see, who are some of the others? Well, Prince Andrew, obviously. Why would you say Prince Andrew? We know that she met Prince Andrew. She's in a picture with him. Bill Richardson, that's it. And so when you look at these names, it is at the very least an extremely credible accusation. And it's something that is going to have to be looked into in detail. Yeah, Rachel Chandler will have a lot more names to name than this young Giuffre, because she was only around there for a few years. Taffy says naming Clinton is a particularly scary proposition for someone in her position. Perhaps, but not any more scary than naming Prince Andrew. Monica Lewinsky named Clinton without any issue. I think that if she had direct information about Bill Clinton, if he had been one of the people that she was accusing, she would have said so. But then again, look at what Bill Clinton likes. He doesn't like blondes, and I mean, she doesn't really strike me as having been Clinton's type. Could be wrong, you know, but we'll see. Also, if I recall correctly, Bill Richardson had some sort of scandal that was related to something or other, young prostitutes or something. Um, so if you look at, um, yeah, Bill Richardson was a Clinton cabinet member, and of course the media hasn't really touched that element. But this is just the very first step. This is the cracking open of the door, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of information forthcoming, most likely. And I think that we are going to learn exactly for whom Epstein was working. I mean, the fact that he was meeting semi regularly with Ehud Barak makes it pretty clear that he was working for Israel in some capacity. But we don't know. Hopefully we will find out. And I think they will find out. So anyhow, express, if you're on Twitter, I would encourage you to express some appreciation to Mike Cernovich for helping make this happen. He's the one who's stayed on top of this relentlessly and kept pushing it and kept pushing it. And, this is it's not a win yet, but it is certainly a big deal. And it's certainly courageous of both Cernovich and of all these young women who are coming forward. And, the truth will come out whenever people are willing to speak the truth. You need to be willing to speak the truth. And so, Matthew Weber says, but Cernovich is Alan Dershowitz's lawyer and longtime friend. No, he's not. Cernovich is not Dershowitz's lawyer. That's absurd. That I would have heard Mike talk about him once. I never have. So, let's see here. Yeah, so anyhow, there isn't too much that's terribly new in this first release, but this is just the first of many. And of course, this doesn't even begin to delve into, this is a girl who was only around Epstein for about 4 years. And so there's going to be a lot more stuff coming out because, there are more and more women are coming forward who were there, at different periods of time. And so different information is going to come out. John Scott says it's a CIA compromise operation. Possibly. I think it's much more likely to be Israeli intelligence just because of the number of American Jews involved. The CIA has historically been tied in with the old school WASPs, and so we'll see. Oh, that temple thing. I think a lot of stuff is going to come out of Epstein's temple and the various basements and so forth. But they need, hopefully, I mean, I don't know why they haven't been there and cleared it all out, but we'll see. We will see. You can't say that it's Mossad because there are honeypots. Every single intelligence agency ever uses honeypots. The Russians are particularly known for it. So, it's Mata Hari was a honeypot of sorts before they even had proper intelligence agencies. So, anyhow, keep paying attention. Don't buy into the distractions. There's going to be more distractions. There always are. And so just keep keep your eye on the focus. Keep your eye on the stuff that's coming out. So, what else is going on? Let me get to this. I missed some super chats, so let me do those. I'm not making this easy on me. It's kind of infuriating the way that they keep changing stuff. Like, on this new thing, I have no idea where the super chats are. It's not in analytics. It's not in videos. You would think comments, right? Or something. No, not comments. Monetization. Live chat. There we go. See all. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. Oilfield Bear says, Deus Volt, thank Vox. You're welcome, and indeed. Thoughts on what the next iteration of the internet and how we might take ground away from Google at all? Newer and better applications. Google is actively working at making their stuff not work. That creates opportunity. Marie Gollet says, I almost died from a fish Sammy. I think she means sandwich. Not saying from where, but 2 rolls were used yesterday. That is way too much information, Marie. Not on purpose, just a general warning. About what? Don't eat fish sandwiches? Yeah, that's way too much information. Let's not do that. And then Nameless Bear says, thanks for mentioning the Kurgan here. I'm blessed to have access to minds like you, Owen, and the Kurgan. Good. I'm glad it's useful. Does a Sigma and Omega get along when they encounter each other? Yeah, more or less. Whose last name of any value starts with a letter E? I don't actually know. Is Assange a Sigma? He appears to be. Have you read Bill Lynn's new book, Retroculture, and what do you think of it if you have? I just talked to Bill Lynn today, actually, and we're interested in possibly doing a documentary on some of his work. Retroculture will not be it. I don't buy into the retroculture concept in the slightest. I don't think that it's particularly serious. I think what it is a older gentleman wishing that engaging in wishful thinking about how his youth was better. For example, I remember my dad telling me years ago that there's really a movement among young people to start dressing better. And I was vastly amused because this was right about 1990, just as grunge was setting in. In fact, I really hated grunge because I liked going out to the nightclubs decked out in Armani and Hugo Boss and that sort of thing. I liked when the women would, wear stuff that was, either glamorous or sexy or something. I hated it when they started going out wearing flannel and jeans and wearing oversized sweaters and that sort of stuff. I thought it was dreadful. So the older that you get, the less in tune with what's actually happening you tend to be. I mean, I've talked with Mr. Lind about retroculture and that sort of stuff. It's just not applicable in any context that I've seen. red flag laws. It's Friday. It's been 2 days. Yeah, and how many federal red flag laws have been passed? None. I think that Trump is playing the Democrats in much the same way that he played them on the Dreamers. He kept saying, yeah, I love the Dreamers, want the Dreamers. All you got to do is build the wall and we'll give you the Dreamers. Never happened. He's already specifically tied any changes in the gun laws to immigration stuff that he knows isn't going to happen. So anyhow, but in terms of even the NRA, which is pretty cucky, has come out against the red flag laws. Now I think that the NRA needs to get off its ass and start attacking the existing red flag laws and get them overturned. I mean, there are certain states where you're not going to be able to do anything about it because the Democrats are in complete control. But there are red flag laws in some states where they should not be. Victor Felix said, Americans have a tendency to think the world revolves around American institutions. They do. The FSB is a lot more dangerous than the CIA. That's not true. The CIA's reach is considerably farther than the FSB. The FSB may be given to stronger actions than the CIA on average, but the CIA has overturned more governments and sponsored more revolutions than the FSB ever has. So, has the Epstein case got too much political clout around it to have true justice come out? No, I don't think so, because there's an angle here that the media simply can't bury. Sex is too interesting to too many people, and sex with underage girls is too unacceptable to too many people for them to successfully be able to bury it. Plus the fact that we already know that there are a lot of powerful people involved, and there's already major anti-pedo actions going on all around the world. I mean, just today, there's a big bust of 21 in Arizona. So, it's not an accident that thousands of pedos are being rounded up. There's a whole war going on between the Trump administration and the swamp, and you need to keep that in mind when you're getting frustrated with Trump's apparent inactivity in other areas. He's actively engaged. Let's see here. Marie says, the Christopher Columbus Highway, aka 10 West to the east, is a major human trafficking, so much so there are signs along the way. I'm not surprised. The whole sex trafficking thing is much, much worse than anyone imagines because of the de facto open borders that we've had for years. They've probably been running young women up from Mexico for at least the last 20, 30 years, and nobody knows. Jen's Incognito says, hi Vox, is there anything women can do to help gamma males become better men? Yes, encourage them to tell the truth, and don't boss them around, and don't, when they do that whole deflecting thing, trying to make you be in charge, don't do it. Just tell them, look, hey, you need to step it up. You're the man. You make the decision. Keep looking to them to be the leader, and eventually they will learn to do it. Museums are related to human trafficking. At this point, you know, it seems like just about anything could be. All these busts and arrests and nothing but crickets from the media, that tells you all you need to know about their complicity. Oh, exactly. There are, the media is entirely complicit with the whole globo pedo thing. A number of them are probably directly involved. You look at Anderson Cooper and his brother and his mother, and there's just they practically drip Satanism. Let's see. Yeah. So anyhow, a couple things since we're just kind of freelancing here. I've decided that if we do the Thor comic, as you may know, Marvel has completely shredded the whole concept of Thor. They've, in the movies, they've handed over Asgard to a black girl or a half black girl who apparently is going to be a lesbian now. And then in the comics, they're actually turning Thor into a woman, and now it looks like they're going to turn Natalie Portman into Thor. And so when you look at this, it's an obvious opportunity of sorts. Thor's not that big a deal. He's not Superman or Batman, but it's also something that is, where you're free to create your own. You're free to compete. And so what we are considering doing is we're considering doing something that looks a little bit like this. Paraplegic wants a Thor in a wheelchair, which is kind of interesting because it's not completely unrelated to something that I'm thinking about, although not that. Let's see here. Yeah, so this was just a little thing I got in the email from one of our artists yesterday. Kind of cool. Yeah, so we're looking at calling it Midgard, the Epic Thor. And the reason that we would call it the Epic Thor is because this is going to be a new story, but it's going to be, it's going to connect to our world today in the same way that Thor does. But the character of Thor is going to be absolutely tied into the way that the way that he is portrayed in the Elder Eddas and the Younger Eddas. And there's not going to be this like weird little alter ego thing that they used to do and that sort of thing. No, Thor cannot be copyrighted. It's kind of interesting. He's got different names like Asa Thor and Oku Thor. We're not going to get weird and confusing like that, but I think that people are going to be very, very interested in the kind of story that we're going to tell. And I'm going to give you just a little hint about the story, because it's not going to be a strictly mythological story, because what's the point of telling a story that's already been told? You can read the Eddas and so forth. But what I think will be interesting is, remember, Midgard, or the human Earth, is one of the paths to Asgard. So, Midgard is the obvious battleground between the Aesir and their various enemies. And so, when you look at this, for me, there's an obvious link between the story of global warming and global climate change and the the frost giants of Jotunheim. And so I'm not going to give you I'm not going to give you too much information right now because we're just still kind of sorting out the ideas and the stories and so forth. But um, you know, if you think about it, there's some potentially very very interesting stories um, that that stretch out over thousands of years um, that I think will be extremely interesting, especially because Thor is not the only character who matters. In fact, what I'll probably do is Thor is the main figure, but instead of having like the lame alter ego thing and having the alter ego wandering around on the earth, he's got 3 children who I think would be a lot more suitable for that sort of thing. And so, um, it's going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting tale. We're just still bouncing it around. Um, we can certainly work in some of the actual mythological tales and so forth, but um, I think it'll be a lot. I think it'll be a lot more interesting than anything that Marvel's been doing with their Thor. Wolfman at Large says, so medieval warm period was when the Aesir got the upper hand. Yeah, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Let's see here. Vox, any news on doing it live on unauthorized? I don't even know what doing it live is. So, no. We don't have any current plans to put anything new on unauthorized at the moment. I mean, I've had lots of people sending me stuff and making suggestions and that sort of thing, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense at the moment to oh, I see. Doing it live is this. We're waiting for the technology to get a little better. It would work, but it would involve some complexities that would not be worth it at the moment. What's a good comic book to start reading when I've never been into comics? Alt Hero and Alt Hero Q would be my recommendation. Vox, what is your opinion of higher IQ women? I feel as if I can't relate to other girls, and men always have a barrier, understandably. It's a bit lonely and I can't appreciate it as much as you do. Well, to be honest, my opinion of higher IQ women is that they tend to be, first, a tremendous pain in the ass, and second, they tend to be either crazy or unhappy. And the crazy and the unhappy parts are probably related. I don't tend to like most high IQ women because most of them are intent on constantly trying to prove themselves to me. And that's of no interest to me. Just the thing about high IQ women is that, yes, they're smart, so they have lots of processing power, right? But they tend to be interested in the same type of stuff that other women are. They don't tend to share interests with men. So, and they also tend to have a much harder row to hoe because there are statistically far fewer women at their level. And so, my main advice to a woman in that position is get over yourself and learn, apply that high intelligence to learning how to get along with people. It's really not that difficult. You know, plenty of high IQ guys do it all the time. And the main thing is, stop trying to impress the smart men. We don't do that with each other. You know, we might enjoy the ability to, you know, sort of relax and unleash, but that's it. You know, there's no jockeying for position. There's no trying to decide, you know, who is smarter. There's no trying to prove it to the other person. You know, and that's the problem that smart women have, is that, you know, they're not any less hypergamous than other women. So they want to make sure that the guy is smarter than they are. So they're constantly trying to challenge him to see if he's actually smarter than they are. And like I said, even if the guy is smarter than her, he's smart enough to prefer an aerobics instructor who will at least shut up from time to time. You know, when what men are looking for in a partner is not someone who is going to challenge them and make their life less pleasant and more difficult. That is not what we are looking for. We're looking for somebody to be a partner, to be a teammate, to support us and to make us feel more confident. And, you know, the worst thing about smart women is that, you know, you have to be on your guard around them all the time, because if you make some little mistake, they're going to jump on it. So, you know, who wants to be around that? Nobody wants to be around that. You know, and that's the problem with. I mean, gammas. It's the same way. You know, gammas have the same problem. They're constantly trying to prove that's why everybody hates them, because they're constantly trying to prove that they're smarter. And so, if they can prove they're smarter, you know, people aren't going to like them. And if they can't, they're not going to like them either. So, no, and I've been consistent about this. You can look on Alpha Game. I've addressed this question numerous times before, and, you know, I know what I'm talking about. You know, I've known, you know, a number of very smart women. I even, you know, knew one girl in particular who was smarter than I was. And she literally ended up in a mental health institution. Bohemond I was the greatest First Crusade leader. Changed my mind. Yeah, don't bring that Crowder stuff around here. Julian Assad, do smart people drink to dumb themselves down for others? Not so much to dumb themselves down for others, but mostly to just loosen up and be able to be more in the moment. Let's see. How about high IQ with TBI? I don't know what TBI is. Isn't Space Bunny high IQ? Define high. You know, she's smart, but she's not, you know, I wouldn't say that she's got, you know, 3-4 SD level. Virgil Hilt says, your hard times make strong men and strong faith show. And Owens, there was no one in the church show. Both hit me profoundly. Thank you both. You are welcome. What's a good IQ range for females? I think they tend to be, you know, happiest when they're kind of in the around the 115 to 120 range. I mean, I'm not happiest, but the smart ones. I mean, some of the happiest people that I know are women who are more in the like 85 category. The nicest, happiest person that I ever knew was a girl who scored in the sixth percentile on the uh, SAT. Great girl, beautiful girl. And it was, she was kind of wise too, because I remember her telling me once, you know, I wish that I was smarter sometimes. She said, but all the girls I know who are smarter wish that they were pretty like me. So I figure I got a good deal. And I just laughed. I was like, you know, she's a philosopher with an IQ of 80 or whatever it is. Um, how do you not like somebody like that? And here's the thing that women who are, pretty smart don't seem to understand is that, if you're dealing with a guy who's got an IQ of 175 or whatever, the fact that you're, 120, 130 IQ, it makes no difference. From his perspective, you're still stupid. And so, but the difference is the genuinely stupid girl is not going to annoy him all the time trying to prove that she really is too smart, whereas the one SD, two SD girl is going to spend all of her time doing that. And so, um, you know, I'm not trying to be harsh on anybody here. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Um, no Promo Bear says, just a quick thank you for your knowledge, sending some support to the Legal Legion of Evil. Yeah, the Legal Legion is crushing these days. Absolutely crushing. Oh, traumatic brain injury. Um, yeah. I mean, the main thing is understanding um, what it is that the opposite sex wants and is attracted to. It's not about trying to justify yourself. That's what gammas do. That's why gammas are deeply and profoundly just unacceptable to women. And, women shouldn't fall into that same type of mistake. I think Alex Jones is probably pretty smart. What are your thoughts on high IQ men gammas? Brother-in-law's Harvard law grad, crazy smart. I thought he was an alpha, but doubting it these days. If he's Harvard law, he's probably not an alpha. Um, you know, First of all, the just because he's Harvard law doesn't mean he's up in the 150 range. Um, there are some people like that there, but not most. Um, and you know, it doesn't matter how smart you are. You can no matter how smart you are, you can still be prone to whatever behavioral pattern you were fixed into during your formative years. There's nothing you can do to change those core pathways. You know, I'm never going to be able to care very much about what other people think. I can intellectually understand that it would be beneficial to me to care more. But just to get by in my daily life, it was necessary for me to ignore what everybody else was doing, saying, and thinking. It did me no good whatsoever. It would have done me great harm to take any of that in, to accept any of that. And so when you learn those habits, when you learn that behavior at such a young age, it's not something you can change. It's the same way that you can see a woman who's 50 pounds overweight, and you can't even see what her features used to look like when she was younger. But if she was the prom queen, or better yet, if she was like the prettiest girl in elementary school and then became the prom queen in high school, she's still going to carry herself as if she's the beautiful one. It can be really odd to witness a high school reunion because the people don't necessarily fit the roles that they fit in high school, but the way that they interact with each other is still based on the historical pattern for the most part. So it's we all bear the scars of our upbringing. Do you believe there will ever be a revival of epic poetry? No. Any favorites? I'm partial to the Iliad. I like Dante's Inferno. Advice for an Omega who is often too hard on himself over small details. Get over yourself. I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. All you people who are staring at your own belly button all the time, you're not going to get anywhere. And also when you say, "Oh, I'm too hard on myself," you're probably not. You just like to be focused on yourself. What you're talking about is the thing where, oh, I tried something and I failed, and so I just sit and beat myself up for the next 6 months. All you're doing is you're using that as an excuse not to try and fail again. It's much more likely that you're afraid of failure. Fail faster. What age do you think the position becomes set? Well, again, it's not like set in concrete. It's just fixed. But I think that, if you look at kids, their position is usually pretty well established by about age 13, 14. Is Jesus a Sigma? Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega. So, no. Matthias Martin says, premium UATV subscriber here. Thanks, Matthias. Is there a technical reason why all the content on unauthorized is 720p or less? Probably because that's what I have it set to. I'd appreciate stuff like the upcoming original documentary to be 1080p. Oh, it's going to be better than that. The problem that I had was I couldn't get we actually have the documentaries, or at least the Reclaiming the Blade, at a higher resolution, but the file was so big that the system couldn't process it. That's why it took 2 extra days just to get it done, because I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And so then I finally backed it down to 720p, and then it was able to work. So we're definitely going to be working with them on that, because most of the stuff, the 720p is basically the standard YouTube, and that's what most of the stuff is set up for. But you're right, we want something better for the documentary. In fact, it may even be filmed in 4K, but we'll see. So, but thanks for the reminder. Do Alf? It is funny. Somebody said that the chat has turned into this annoying obsession with the social sexual hierarchy, I kind of tend to agree. Just so you know, I actually shut down the Alpha Game blog. I stopped blogging there because I'm so uninterested in talking about it. So I don't mind the occasional question, but just to let you know, I'm going to start ignoring all hierarchy related questions that are not super chats. It's just not, it's not that interesting to me. It is what it is. It is useful, but there are other things to talk about. Synthesis says, thank you for your insights on high IQ women. I found you and Owen at a pivotal time and was able to accept God. That's good, but you need to accept Jesus Christ, not just God. Just to be clear. I have an amazing man I'm fully committed to. I ask about social graces. I tend to think I have Asperger's. That's possible, or it's just possible that you're smart and awkward. That's a pretty common combination. What you need to do is the same thing that I told that Omega the other day. Look at what other people do, observe, take notes, and apply. Current events, and when they talk about ideas. The average group. No, we're not publishing Royce's blog as a book. Let's see. The Barcelona Life trip to Venice was fun. Any other travel-related shows on the horizon on Unauthorized? No, but there'll be more stuff on Barcelona Life. Would it be possible for Western countries to build strong nations without capitalism and free trade? Without free trade, yes. Without capitalism, no. Carl Jung is an idiot and offers absolutely no insight whatsoever. That's a bit of an overstatement, but that summarizes my position. Carl Jung was the Jordan Peterson of his day. There's a description of there's a description in Jordanetics, and you would swear it's a description of Jordan Peterson, and it's actually a historical description of Carl Jung at one of his public events. If you have Asperger's, you stem with your hands. I have no idea what that means. Obviously, I don't have Asperger's. It's probably, yeah, this is correct. Wikipedia snippet says, it's probably better, it's definitely better to observe behavior than to take advice, because what a lot of people do, they can't explain well. In fact, the better that they can do it, the less they can explain it. This is why great players seldom become good coaches, whereas failed or lesser players are the ones who become the Bill Belichicks and so forth. The more complicated it is, the less the naturals have to offer you. I'm giving Peterson too much credit. No, obviously Jung was more influential than Peterson, but I'm saying that they're the same type of fraudster. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. I'll look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream, and VFM, Dread Ilk, especially if you were a Alt Hero Q backer of any type, check your email in the next few days. Oh, I missed a super chat. Hang on. Let me go back and get that. Let's see here. How can you be an alpha and an omega? Well, the first step is be God. The point is that the hierarchy doesn't apply to Jesus Christ. Jesus was whatever he decided that he needed to be. Why do leftists push pot use, and what is their goal? Oh, they just want to use it themselves, and their goal is to not feel. And last, would you have ordered for Texas beheading? If I had been the legate, absolutely. The general involved had his own son executed. So, anyhow, looks like you're going to have to catch the answers on unauthorized because it looks like the stream froze again. Very well. We'll call it a day. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.